All right, now that our cavatelli are made, our pesto is made, we're ready to begin cooking the dish. So once again, we have to salt our water. So we'll take our kosher salt and salt our pasta water as salty as the sea. No olive oil in the pasta water. Something to look for too, before you add your salt, you want to make sure that your pasta water is at a nice steady boil. It doesn't need to be, a crazy rolling boil, but a nice steady boil. And this helps to make sure that the salt dissolves evenly into the water. Often what will happen is it'll settle on the bottom. So we want to make sure that it's distributed evenly throughout the water. So be sure to be patient. Get your water boiling, far ahead of time. Add more water if needed, if it evaporates, but you want to make sure that it is at a nice boil. As I had mentioned before, pesto should not be cooked. We just want to kind of gently warm it. So we're going to take our pesto and we are going to add it to our pan here. And we've got it on a very, very, very low heat. Barely anything. Just give it a little swirl. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and cook our cavatelli. We have everything here ready to complete this dish. Again, very important that you have everything ready and available. This helps make cooking more streamlined, a lot easier. It also makes for a better cleanup. So we're going to take our cavatelli, which have been kind of air drying and hanging out. So this pasta, fresh pasta, some of them benefit from air drying slightly. So you can leave these out on the cutting board. Don't worry about letting them dry out a little bit. It enables me to kind of pick them up by the handful like this, as opposed to gingerly placing them in the pot. So it actually helps you out a little bit. Right into our boiling water. Okay, again, our spider, we're going to gently stir our pasta. Make sure none of it is really weighed down to the bottom. If there is a lot of pasta, it'll tend to stick to the bottom. So just a little stir once in a while, stay with it. Fresh pasta, for the most part, cooks a lot quicker than dried pasta. There is still, again, not really al dente, but a point where the pasta still has a little bit of a bite and a chew, and that is the point at which you want to pull the pasta. And again, we can taste it for that. So when you cook cavatelli, just like gnocchi, because they are the pasta form of gnocchi, you want to see them kind of come up to the top and hang out there for a little bit. Often we say we want to look for them to do due passi. So they come up to the top twice and they're rolling around, and then they kind of hang out there for a little bit. At this point too, now that the pasta is in the pot, we are going to take some of this starchy pasta water and we are going to add it to our pesto for two reasons. One, it's going to help warm it a little bit more, and two, again, it helps to emulsify our sauce. The process of a sauce emulsifying is it kind of brings it together. So often the fats will separate from the water component, so this helps to bring it together and keep it unified as one sauce, and this really helps texturally. This is particularly apparent, if you're making a butter sauce, the fats will tend to separate and you don't want that. And the same thing goes for this. We have our oil in this, our olive oil, our fat, and it'll tend to want to pull away from the liquid component, the basil component. So our pasta is actually almost ready here. We can see it's come up to the top, and we blanched our basil in our pasta water, directly in our pasta water. One, because it's great, it saves on another pot, and two, because it actually is beneficial. When you blanch, your broccoli rabe or your basil in the same pasta water that you are going to cook your pasta in, it actually flavors your pasta a little bit more. So it adds a little extra boost of basil in the cooking process. All right, so we're almost ready for the final and most important step when cooking pasta, which is transferring your pasta directly from your pasta water into its respective sauce. This is where, when we're cooking a short pasta, the spider comes into play and is a really useful tool. This spider is going to allow me to easily scoop this straight from our pasta water and add it to my sauce. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer it. But before I do that, I'm going to pull one and taste it to make sure that we are there for the cooking. Perfect. So it still has a little bit of a bite to it, and that's what we want. We don't want it to be completely mushy and soft. It still hasn't absorbed its full capacity of water, so it still has a little bite to it. So it's ready to go into its sauce. All right, so our cavatelli are in here. We're going to allow them to kind of absorb some of that sauce. Very, very low heat, if any heat at all. It's a little bit more liquid than I would like to see. But you know, sauce to pasta ratio, this is okay because these cavatelli are still kind of absorbing some of that liquid. Plus we are going to be adding some cheese. What I would often do is take some of this pasta water after I added the cheese, which I'm most likely not going to have to do in this case. I can go just straight into adding my cheese and not have to worry about that at all. So sauce to pasta ratio, you want to make sure that there's enough sauce that it's coating, but not too much sauce that the pasta is drowning in it. And this is particularly important when we're talking about ragouts. All right, so off the heat, we are going to add in our Parmigiano Reggiano, as little or as much as you'd please, and you'll see that the sauce tightens up very quickly at this point. So if the sauce becomes too tight, you'll want to make sure to add in some of that pasta water to give it some more fluidity. Okay, we're going to go ahead and taste again. All right. We are all set to serve this. So at this point is when, if you were adding nuts, pine nuts, walnuts, pistachios, whatever it is, you would add them now. Fold them in to keep them nice and crunchy, keep the texture. Lightly toast them. You can see here that the pasta is releasing its starches. This pasta is becoming a little more creamy, and that's something that you are looking for. To serve it, you just take a little ladle here, spoon it right into the center. Little piece of basil if you wanted. And just like that, you have a beautiful plate of cavatelli with pesto.